we need to talk. Have you ever felt unwanted? Like no matter how hard you try, at home, at work, even amongst friends, you're always the one people settle for, not the one they choose. That was Leah. And yet God turned her rejection into legacy. With Leah, we often remember her as the unloved wife. But her story is one of the most beautiful wilderness transformations in the Bible. The wilderness isn't always a place. Sometimes it's a season, a stretch in your life where you feel unseen, unheard, or unsure of what God's doing. And it feels like no one sees your efforts. Grace doesn't skip the wilderness, it transforms it. We've all had Leah season. When you're showing up, praying, serving, doing everything right, those seasons test not just your patience, they test your identity. Okay, so let's walk through the stories. Leah, Hannah, Esther, and Ruth, and maybe discover what God's shaping in ours. Let's get into it. Before we meet Leah, we need to meet Jacob, the man who deceived his father Isaac and stole his brother's inheritance. After he did that, he fled to his uncle Laban. There he fell in love with Rachel, Leah's younger, beautiful sister. Jacob asked for her hand in marriage and was told to work for 7 years to get her. But on the wedding night, Laban deceived him, switching the two sisters. Talk about karma. The deceiver got deceived. Now, before we go any further, I just want to say this clearly. This isn't a story about comparing women. Rachel had her own wilderness too. The pain of waiting, barrenness, jealousy, and the pressure to measure up. We're not belittling her story, but Leah's wilderness is often the one most visible, the one people still joke about when they say, I never want to be a Leah. So let's pause and really look at her story again, because maybe she isn't the woman we should be pitying. Maybe she's the woman who learned to conquer her wilderness from the inside out. Genesis 29, verse 25. So it came to pass in the morning that behold, it was Leah. And he said to Laban, what is this that you have done to me? That one verse captures a lifetime of heartache. So that's Jacob speaking. Leah didn't ask for this. She didn't choose it. She had to live it. And haven't we all been there? You give your best, yet somehow you're compared, replaced, or quietly overlooked. There's always a Rachel, somewhere, someone who shines effortlessly, while you're just trying to prove your worth, to be chosen. But here's the truth. God doesn't build purpose on popularity. He builds it on promise. Genesis 29:31. When the Lord saw that Leah was hated, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. That line stops me every time. God saw her, not the husband who compared her, not the sister who outshone her. God saw her. Sometimes that's all the healing you need, to know heaven notices when the world ignores. He didn't fix Jacob. He didn't shame Rachel. He simply turned towards Leah. Her womb opened because her heart was open before God. Sometimes the miracle, and actually most times, it's not what changes around you. It's what softens within you. And through that openness came the legacy. Because in the wilderness, the change you pray for often begins inside you. And please, remember this as we journey through the series. Now, this part always amazes me. Because when you trace Leah's family tree, you realize God didn't just heal her heart. He built legacy that shaped history. Leah gave birth to 6 sons and a daughter, and through her came the 10 tribes of Israel. I know the maths is a bit weird, but obviously there were servant girls who also gave birth to children. But on Leah's side, let's see a few of these. Reuben, the Lord has looked on my affliction. Simeon, the Lord heard that I was unloved. Levi, the line of the Levitical priesthood. From there came Moses and Aaron and the temple ministers. Judah, whose name means praise, the tribe which King David and ultimately Jesus Christ. Zebulun, tribes known for wisdom and strength, and her daughter Dinah, a story that reminds us that even pain can reveal God's justice and compassion. Leah's life shows that God can build nations out of neglected hearts. She began naming her sons from pain. Now my husband will love me. But something changed with her fourth son. Genesis 29:35. And she conceived again and bore a son and said, now I will praise the Lord. Therefore she called his name Judah. The meaning of Judah is praise. That's the moment the wilderness became worship. She stopped striving for human love. She started living for divine love. If you look at the timeline, roughly 2 years per child by the time you get pregnant, breastfeeding, Leah's endurance was about 8 years in the wilderness. 8 years of silent perseverance and unseen faith. Now, if we echo Luke 18:1-8, then Jesus told them the parable to show them that they should always pray and not give up. So this parable was about the unjust judge and the widow. That's Leah's story. She persevered, she prayed, she praised, even when nothing seemed to change. And something in her shifted. Each woman's wilderness teaches us a different kind of perseverance. So that's Ruth, Hannah, Esther, Leah. It's a perseverance that's not measured by outcome, but transformation. The spiritual smartwatch, the data of faith, is what I would like to call it. If she had a smartwatch, I could actually record faith progression. Prayer streak will be glowing. Perseverance is up 200%. Praise restored. A prayer would be reading at 3 years endurance. On her second year, should have hope through heartbreak. On her fourth year, should have naming children with longing. But by year 8, it will just ping praise Judah. Those are the type of measurements that God is looking for. That transformation that happens from within, not around us. When she gave birth to Judah, she said, now I will praise the Lord. Is essentially what Jesus is trying to tell us. You just need to keep on persevering in prayer. Leah's life shows that God can build nations out of neglected hearts. And in the wilderness, God reminds us, start your praise early. It's your first offering. Numbers 10, verse 14. Judah's tribe was always the first to march when Israel journeyed through the wilderness. Maybe that's where you are, trying to be seen, trying to be chosen. But perhaps God's whispering, I see you. I'm building something eternal through your quiet faithfulness. But you just have to persevere with prayer, because love from people fades, but love from God forms you. Leah's name may have meant weary, but her story became one of worship. Genesis 49, verse 31. There they buried Abraham and Sarah, his wife. There they buried Isaac and Rebekah, his wife. And there I buried Leah. Even in death, she was honored. Jacob chose to be buried beside Leah, the one God had chosen for the covenant legacy. So, what can we learn from Leah's wilderness? That love from people can be conditional, but love from God is covenantal. Leah's story reminds us you don't have to be the one everyone chooses to be the one God uses. Maybe she's not the one we need to feel sorry for. She's the one who transformed rejection into revelation and pain into praise. And that's really what the Women of Grace in the Wilderness series is. Learning how to see our wilderness seasons not as punishment, but as preparation. Because let's be real, the world is so broken, and these stories help us navigate our broken places with grace, faith, and wisdom. Every test, every waiting season, every quiet ache, they're invitations to grow in grace, thought, and faith. That's exactly why I've created the Outsmart Wilderness Tracker, a reflective guide to help you notice where you are, what God might be teaching you, and how to stay faithful while you wait. I'll share more about this soon, but for now, maybe take a moment this week to journal your Leah moments. Ask yourself, where am I still striving to be seen? And where can I start resting in being known? Our journal prompts. Where in my life have I felt unseen or undervalued? How might God already be honoring me in a quiet way? What would shift if I said, this time I'll praise the Lord? I'm Yvonne, and this is Wing It with Thought, where faith meets real life, one story at a time. This is part of the Women of Grace in the Wilderness series. Next up, we have Hannah, the woman who prayed through her pain, and then Esther, and finally Ruth, whose story I've linked below if you'd like to catch up. If Leah's story spoke to you, share it with someone who feels unseen. Because even when the world overlooks you, God never does. Until next time, stay blessed. I just want to come here to say thank you for all the new subscribers. I see you. We're embarking on our Women in Grace Through the Wilderness series, and I would really appreciate if you'd join us through this journey. Until next time, stay blessed.